All right, so we're live on 1, 2, 3. We're waiting on YouTube. We're now live on YouTube. Todd. Get your act together. Okay. All right. Yeah, you're good. I would do this. Hang on. Yeah, because we want to get a crowd in here, and we got Australia, that in New Zealand. Can you even understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How weird is that? Okay. All right. You're live on Facebook Live and YouTube. I'm very sorry. I can't play the intro, and you guys have a great show. I'm going to go back to the couch and crash. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
So,
hello, everybody. My name is Nguyen. I'm the host today. And our guest, Michael, sorry if I bastardized your last name. Is it Muir?
Yeah, that's correct. Totally.
Perfect. Good. All right. And you are new to me, but you're not new to SOULSPEAKS 5D for the Soulology platform. So I'm very excited to meet you. I knew nothing about you. To be honest, I didn't even know I was doing this show with you. All of a sudden this morning I was driving and I get a text. And wow. Morgan's usually really good at giving me a heads up. I'm booking you with this person. All of a sudden I just get a link to Zoom. And I'm like, wow. What are you talking about? Is there a show booked today? So this is where the energies are at for today, which is kind of funny because, because Todd, as you can tell, when he was setting us up, he was dropping F-bombs and having a lot of problems. I don't know if he can manage staying upright right now. So I'm just going to check the feed right now. Todd, before you crash on the sofa, can you just check the gallery view? Because it looks like right now it's just me and I don't know where Michael went. Can everyone see Michael or is it just me? I'm just checking the feed. It looks like it's just my giant head talking right now. Interesting. We're having a very interesting day. There's definitely lots of weird stuff happening on the energies.
If I talk, can you see me? If I talk,
I can hear you and see you in the Zoom room, but the way it's shown on Facebook right now, we don't see you. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So when you talk, you pop up. So he needs to split screen us. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Just be a second.
Okay.
All right. Hang on. You're let me get you right. No, you're right. Make sure that it should say speaker view or gallery view. Hung?
Yeah, now it looks good.
Okay, so
good to go.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, you're good. All right. Bye.
Let's try this. Let's try this again. Hopefully that works. Jeez.
Is that okay? Yeah, I can see.
Yes. Okay, well, we'll just keep going ahead. We'll see what happens. Looks like we're good. Okay, now we're on split screen. Okay, perfect. So welcome.
Sure.
When was the last time you were on SOULSPEAKS 5D? When was your last show, Todd?
It must have been right at the beginning of the year, I think, or early, late at the end of last year. It was really, I think, actually, I think it was before the bushfires in Australia. So I think it was before Christmas time, before the changes. Yes, it's been a little while. Yeah,
and you are based in Australia, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm from Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, we haven't heard how life has unfolded for you since the Australian fires and pre-COVID-19. Wow, there's a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I guess should I share a little about myself and about where I'm at? Yeah. So I guess that yes, it's been a little while. I think that Australia has felt a lot, in the last few months. Obviously, the bushfires became out to the globe, really, in the news, and it had a really big impact on a lot of the land on the east coast of Australia, which is Melbourne, Sydney, in between, and up into Queensland, not so much in the west of Australia. So it was quite a lot of trauma in the land. Like it felt like a bit of a cleanse, really. It felt like a bit of a deep cleanse of the land. Also, many animals passed. There was a lot of emotion. I was in Perth, Western Australia, when most of it happened at Christmas time. So I was away from the intensity of it, the feeling intensity of it. But when I came back to the East, it was really, really potent. I guess how the shock in the system.
Right.
I mean, as has continued with the COVID stuff, really.
Right.
But I mean, for Australia, I mean, we are in lockdown still. We've had a very, we've been very fortunate in that respect, numbers wise, and have it sort of under control, more or less. There's still cases happening, but we've like the curve is quite flat here. Obviously less people, more space, catching it early. We kind of, so far we're not so impacted numbers of people deaths wise, but it's, you know, everyone's feeling it everywhere, you know. The restrictions, well, how long will the restrictions be? The frustration coming through, and obviously keeping an eye on in America and England and everything that's going on overseas. It just feels huge right now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So your country or nation went from Australian burning in fire to lockdown.
Well, floods in between, and floods in between.
Right, a flood in between. Good times.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It's been since this year, it's 2020. It's been really intense and crazy here. Yeah.
Wow. So for and Todd was just updating me a little bit on your background. So you work with some strong Lemurian / Atlantean energies. Is that correct?
So I work with different, so I work with different, I'm a light language channel. So I channel through light language, but I also channel in different dimensional frequencies, clearing Atlantean, Lemurian stuff, also galactic templates. So it's very much working with, I feel like my work is primarily clearing and releasing old energies from different lives, and also sort of releasing and upgrading the soul and the light body to, I guess it's multi-dimensional capacity, you know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So working through meditation sound and sort of like taking people to different frequentions through like meditation and that kind of thing. Yeah.
So during the we'll start with the fires and then move on to the flood and then COVID-19. Was there any connection to your work with the physicality that was unfolding for you in Australia?
Well, it was interesting because I don't know if you remember that there was quite a lot of ceremony that happened around the 12th of the 1st, the Saturn-Pluto conjunct at Uluru, which is the power chakra, the solar plexus chakra of the Earth. That point, many people gathered, many different communities gathered at that point, because it was the astrological alignment where it was the introduction or the completion is what it had been spoken about in ancient texts, including the Aboriginal people, around the finishing off of the completion of the activation of the Rainbow Serpent songline, which goes from Australia, Glastonbury, Lake Titicaca. So this was a lot of ceremony that was carried on, I felt, also through the galactics, the Pleiadians from up above Uluru, but also a lot of people on the ground, indigenous, different communities in the spiritual, new agey type people. So it was all communed, and that was when the bushfires were hitting. So it was interesting. I felt that this alignment was coming in, and it felt like it was almost a cleanse or preparation around that energy, so that the earth could be cleared of karma, really cleared of some of the karma that needed to be released. And I feel like even with the COVID experience, you know, it feels similar. This sort of, I mean, I know there's many different agendas and there's lots of theories around about what the truth is right now. But from my feeling, I feel like this is a time of we've been granted passage to go inward, to clear, to release, to open up, and to expand into a different dimension for the whole planet. And I feel that these occurrences that are happening are kind of supporting us to release the old, let go of the past, also bringing up lots of fear in people, shock, whatever it is, so that they can actually transmute that and move, and so that we collectively can move into a different frequency eventually, you know.
So in regards, so what is very specific, I find, well, what I find very fascinating from my perspective. So I'm actually based in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so from my perspective, there's something quite unique about Australia. Besides the fact that you guys have the most deadliest animals there, and I won't step foot because I have fears of snakes and everything like that. But there's something quite unique as a nation about Australia, that obviously there was something about the fires when you were talking about the conjunction at the beginning of December and focusing on the ending of one paradigm and starting on the new one. What for you, what is it about Australia that required that level of purification? Like, why didn't the rest of the world burn? Why was it just lucky you?
Okay. Yeah. So what I got and what I read online and what I sort of felt into at the time was there was lots of, obviously every time something big happens, it feels like there's a lot of people in our community sort of have intel and speak about such things. I mean, personally, I'm from England originally, so not always been born in and not always lived in Australia. So I do feel that this is a sacred land. I feel that there's a purity here. There's also, but also, you know, like every land, there has been trauma that has been in regards to the settlement of white people against the indigenous, and the trauma that the land holds around that, of when the indigenous were massacred, you know, back when the first settlers came. So there has been the trauma that the land holds and has to karmically clear. And I feel that that was part of the cleanse. Part of it was just releasing what needs to be released. It's interesting that we haven't had the virus as strongly here. It's almost, you know, maybe that piece was our more karmic piece more than the virus so far. I don't know if it's going to come back to us later, but it feels like it was because the power center of Gaia is located in Australia, and it has to be, and we need to be activated and powered up as people because I feel that's one of the Palladium portals, and and I feel that they're coming in and they're really bringing up the DNA consciousness of us, so that we actually get switched on to the full potential, or the sovereignty, the freedom, whatever you want to call it, to who we are. And I think because of the location of the power chakra, it has to be Australia that had that experience first, so that it set something off, because it happened in Australia, but it became a global outpouring of love, really.
Yes.
The amount of support and funds and heart that was opened through the world, seeing the animals perish and the images that flashed around the world. It was a moment of unity, you know. It was a moment of unity. And also brought Australia into, it was that moment that brought Australia into everyone's living room, you know, as the power center was being activated. So it was an interesting combination, I feel.
Yeah, I find it iconic, almost, the sequencing of the events of 2020. I mean, everybody just thought, oh, it's going to be, you know, a new decade. Who knew we would go through, you know, Australia goes on fire. But I mean, there was, at the same time, we had the California was on fire as well. But it didn't pull on the same emotional chord as Australia. It was almost like a side fact. And not that people didn't care about California, but people cared more about what was happening in Australia. And you're right, because when the images flash on, of the animals that were passing on, it was for anyone that wasn't awakened or is not a true empath, it still stopped you in your tracks to take a moment and just really connect with Gaia. Like you didn't even like I wouldn't say I didn't feel bad for the humans that occupied Australia, because for some reason it felt safe. You know what I mean? Like the souls that were there felt safe, but there was the animals and all of the vegetation and the flora that really kind of pulled at me. And so the reason I asked that was because I knew Australia on some people's radar, depending on what level of what kind of intuitive you are, is considered a PowerPoint. For you, do you assign a specific chakra for Australia? Or
I mean, the sort of I mean, people. I mean, within the Earth chakras, Uluru as rock in the mainly the centre of Australia, the north end is the solar plexus. I feel the solar is what people say. Glastonbury is the heart chakra. So I feel that we hold that power center of the earth that wasn't in the. If these portals of power centers have been set up by galactics such as Palladians, and if the work wasn't completed when they set them up, it feels like now they've been powered up. And so it felt like that piece had to be done, that ceremonial powering up had to happen. And it's funny, that happened on the 12th of the 1st, and that was approximately, that was the Saturn-Pluto conjunct, and that was also approximately when the first cases of COVID were coming out in Wuhan. So it really paralleled the emergence of that virus. Yeah.
Okay. So then for you, after when you went through that transition, you went through the fire situation, and then you kind of went immediately, you didn't even have a chance to breathe, I guess, right? You just went immediately into COVID-19 experience. Was there a shift in energy from
Yes.
experience to the next one, or is it just an amplification for you?
When I came back to Sydney from over interstate, I felt there was still quite a lot of shock in people. It felt like just because of the size of the land that was burnt, it was huge. The size of the land that was burnt on the coast, all the way up, and so people I still felt were a bit in shock, and so then. But then it turned more, I felt more fearful once we went into the lockdown stuff, It felt more panicky because mainly, even though there was bushfires and it was devastating and the animals passed, as you said, people felt safe enough during that process. I mean, people did lose their homes, some people, but it didn't feel as, I don't know, I don't feel I didn't feel the unsafety that was the feeling of when all the COVID stuff started happening. That felt much
like you didn't worry about your own mortality, right?
Yeah. And then suddenly, you walk down the street and you're worried about how close you get to next to somebody. You know what I mean? So it just felt like the fear really ramped up and the paranoia, and it just feels a lot. Even though we haven't got small numbers here compared to other countries, it's been we kind of have been a bit isolated, where as a country we're isolated from the world, and mainly going on in our own little way, and then suddenly bushfires, COVID, it's like it's not. We've had quite a lot of bumps lately. For sure.
Well, I think just by default of being an island, you are separated more from the main countries that are connected, right? So you do have your own energy kind of orbiting in that section regardless. So I mean, with because the origins of the virus where it was in China. A lot of the traveling stopped for you guys in terms of incoming with the bushfires before that even landed. So that probably gave you a little bit of a buffer zone. Blessing in disguise, I would say. So how have you been dealing with the virus in terms of your energy work, or just your day-to-day?
I mean, for me, personally, sort of moving, I mean, my original training was somatic psychotherapy, so counseling, including sort of like a traditional therapy, including the bodily experience. So that I'm very much hands-on. So I sometimes touch people, and also when I do group work. So I do group work, and obviously it's normally in the room or in interstate. And so I sort of had to make the transition from face-to-face to online, really, you know, to really transition and I was already doing some online healings and activations, but it made me step up, really. It made me step up and not be so afraid of the technology and just try it. And it's actually interesting. And I've spoken to other friends that are also working in doing remote work, doing healing work. And we all feel that we've amplified in this time, that the energies that are coming in, even though there's so much chaos going on and uncertainty, it also feels like the cosmic frequencies that are entering into the planet are really powerful. And that's allowing us to access more of our, I feel like opening up more of our senses. So it feels like my psychic nature, or my third eye, if you want to call it that, feels more heightened now than it was when I was before all this happened. It feels like I can tune in more refined, in a more refined way. I'm obviously slowing down. I'm not moving around as much. I'm not going to different places. So that's probably part of it as well. But I do feel like there's more clarity coming in, you know, through my channel. Yeah.
So so because of the mandatory
have you experienced that?
Yeah, I find, well, I actually haven't gone slower. Like, I know a lot of people have experienced going, because you are physically stopped, you kind of have to go inwards. You're forced. It's a forced situation, right? In my own personal experience, I haven't forced myself to go slower. I'm still at the same pace in terms of movement and activity. It's just I can't leave, like I can't go camping and I can't go do this. But I'm still quite still active and still haven't been bored enough to be baking bread. Like, you're not going to find me doing push-ups. Like, all my friends keep sending me challenges. I'm like, you did that? No, I don't have that time. I'm not organizing my sock underwear drawer, anything like that. But what I'm finding is like yourself, the clarity of information coming in is a lot stronger. So I don't second guess my information anymore. So that connection to heart source is just, I feel like the heart source connection is so strong, it kind of overpowers your monkey mind. So when info drops in, I'm like, I don't need to say, oh, what was that? I don't have to question it. It just comes out as cleaner info. So for me, it's been a gift in that aspect. But I did go through, I'm going to be completely honest, first 3.5 weeks of the isolation situation. So Vancouver's not on lockdown per se. We still are allowed to leave. We have to practice social distancing and all that, but we can't like congregate, right? So
we're similar.
So we're probably on the same wavelength in terms of basically our situation for the human side of it. But it was still 3.5 weeks was scary for me. I didn't really know, and it's weird because I live out fantasies of apocalyptic timelines. That's my favorite thing to do. So, but I was thinking more like zombies or Sharknado or alien invasion, right? This version was not on the radar. Like, slow moving COVID-19 kills you out of boredom was definitely not in the narrative of apocalypse. So I wasn't really sure what to do with it. I'm like, okay, what's happening here? I almost feel I'm a fast-paced person, so this is really painful for me to slow down, go inwards, face all your fears. For the first 3.5 weeks, I couldn't even talk to people because I just had a lot of verbal diarrhea come up. It was a lot of like F-bombs and F this shit, I'm tired of this. I'm in a much better place now.
Yeah.
But it took me a lot to
Yeah.
get there, for sure. What for you? Were you peacefully accepting it all the way through?
Oh, no, I felt similar, and I still have waves of I sometimes, if I'm working and I'm in my work and I'm in service, I feel very at peace and very like we'll be fine and we're on the right track and it's all coming towards a longer term, better outcome. But then if I have too much time, just I can start to do too much Googling, too much YouTubing, and getting caught in different theories, and then suddenly thinking, oh my God, we're going to be chipped and vaccinated and we're all dead.
Yeah.
So it can go it can go into real hardcore places. But I feel like part of what I've noticed as well, how I feel like we're neutralizing these timelines before they manifest. It's like we hear these stories of this might happen, that might happen. And I feel like we're clearing it in the collective before it actually happens, because it feels like I can't even think about next week anymore. It's like, I feel like it's like day by day or 3 days by 3 days. And so even I'm still doing a little bit of group work online through Zoom. And even that, I used to plan groups 1 month ahead. I'm really 1 week ahead is about all I can manage right now,
Yeah,
And
I totally agree. Yeah, it's just, forces you to stay in the moment. I feel we talk about it. I think it's easy to talk about it. Putting it in practice is really difficult in our modern world until this hit and you have no choice. And because literally the situation changes every hour, it seems like. So what's the point of planning it? So you can be disappointed?
Yeah. So it's sort of, so I'm just sort of trying to be open to what comes, and it doesn't feel like anything's set right now in the way. I don't feel like I get any information about where we're headed. I feel, as you say, I feel like everything's changing. It's in flux, and on a hologram level, like of the Earth grids, I feel that there's this the dissolution of the old hologram, and then I feel like we're shifting internally to be the conduits to hold the new hologram, but this hasn't anchored yet, so we're still in this sort of in between. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
An in between sort of not knowing really anything right now.
Yeah, and I feel like every time that you feel like, oh, today feels okay, or you lean into the new normal and you're kind of at peace, you're like, yeah, I can accept this new normal, and then bam, no, something new drops in.
Yeah, totally.
So for example, even today, I mean, Todd, I was kind of laughing at him because I pay attention to him kind of in the background when I'm working on something. And he had a rough couple of interviews today because he kept getting, you can tell his energy kept getting interrupted. It was very fractured. Todd, you were very fractured today. So I'm not sure if he's still doing astral work. So he hasn't gone back into his body to basically play this human role of like talking to other humans well, right? So he's like, and even for me, it was, the good thing is because we don't have to interact with other people, we really are marinating in our own shit, honestly. So when you're just forced to, like, you can't even blame people anymore. If you were the type of person and, that likes to play the victim role, that's fine. If you own it at least, right? But you can't even blame people. I think people are getting to a point in their life where like, well, I can't even blame that person or this person. You're just forced to face yourself.
I noticed that myself. I've just been noticing, how much I've got more space to reflect on my own process, and sort of see, I guess, witness some of the blind spots that you just kind of, I can personally sort of blame others for, you know what I mean, like in my life. And so it's been a real eye-opener as well to sort of take a bit more self-responsibility of my own process, and also have compassion for everybody in the same position. I feel like there's so much triggering going on in everyone's system because of this process that I feel, it's so hard to not get reactive at times. So I'm just trying, my work is really, I feel at the moment, just hold light, hold heart space, and just be there for people in a very gentle way, because I don't think people can handle too much right now around around you know, theory, like theories of stuff. When I see people reacting about conspiracies and stuff like that, and it just feels that we're all looking for such a natural human response to look for meaning and clarity and truth, and it's just not there right now. There's no, I think, real one answer to any of this, you know. It just feels crazy. Yeah.
So with the energies that you pre-COVID-19, the energies that you were working with, has that changed during COVID-19? Because I understand you do light language, you work with galactics. Has any of that shifted for you? Like, have some of it been amplified, or have the galactics dropped off for you?
So I haven't had a lot of galactic stuff. When it first happened, when we first went to lockdown, which we've been in about 5-6 weeks, I think, 5 weeks, and there was quite a feeling of this golden frequency. It felt like the Elohim frequency. It was so strong. It was beautiful. It was the first week of the lockdown, and I'm lucky enough to live not too far from the water in Sydney, and I can walk down to a park and just go and sit there and meditate in the morning. And I was sitting there, and the sun, you know, I don't know if you've noticed, but it feels like everything feels much clearer. Like the sun's so bright, the birds are cheeping everywhere. It just feels like there's such a peacefulness in nature right now, even though we're going through all this stuff. And I felt this real golden frequency come in. And I did a transmission online around the golden ones. It felt like it felt like we got anchored into our it was almost like a royal crowning. You know, like people say the corona is crowning, like an energetic crown that was placed, and bringing us back into more of the sovereignty and more of the, I guess, the divine blueprint, our divine energy, our creator, Elohim frequency. So I got that very strongly in the first week or so. I did a transmission, and then it was gone. You know, it feels like it's there, it's gone. It's there, it's gone. It's really, there's rapid transmissions coming through, and then it moved through to then it was Easter. So a lot came through around clearing the Christ timelines. So I was working with their scenes and Christ consciousness. Really clearing the throat, the heart space around the Christ timelines, and also, I guess, bringing in more of what you spoke about, the beautiful heart, the crested heart that feels like it's wanting to be really deepened into and anchored into at this time. And again, that was transmitted and it was done. And then this weekend I'm going to do feels like it's connected with Lyra. So the Lyrans have been coming this week, and this energy is just really a stillness, and it's all about the divine feminine aspect. So really anchoring in that energy to support our ongoing light body advancement, really, and our ongoing integration, I feel, of this dimensional shift internally, so that we can be in a different light body by the time this process is over. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So a lot of people are talking about the balance of the divine and the feminine divine feminine and the masculine energies, like balancing that out. For you, collectively or personally, is there one energy that you work with more just so you can create that balance?
You mean inwardly for me? You mean?
Yeah, just personally you.
So so I have quite a, for the divine masculine aspect, I feel I connect quite strongly with Thoth and the Christ consciousness. For the feminine aspect, it feels more galactic, like the Lyrans, or even Mother Mary, you know. And so it feels I connect with those energies, Mary Magdalene, and they come to me at different times. So, like, part of the year, I feel like I'm working on the masculine aspect of self, and then on the other, it flips and I start working on the feminine. So I just sort of go with the guidance of what I feel like I'm here to embody and then transmit to people is the bridge as a gay male is to bridge the two in my own channel, so that I can sort of transmit that to people through my work. Yeah.
What is your predominant energy form that you usually work with?
Do you mean like modality, you mean? Or
sorry, in terms of like feminine versus masculine, what is your predominant?
I would say more feminine.
Okay.
For me, more feminine. And then over the time I've been opening up to spirit, I've anchored more of the masculine. So it's sort of, it was easier at the beginning to do the work with the feminine aspect, the intuitive feminine, more receptive. And now it feels that my sovereignty is bringing in the masculine and sort of holding both now, so that I can take the work out, you know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And would you describe Australia as having a predominant masculine or feminine energy? Like, do countries have those? I'm just asking. I don't know the answer.
Okay. Well, it's funny because the reason I felt drawn to do a feminine transmission this weekend was because I was reading another psychic's channeling, and she was saying that the reason that Australia, which felt like it resonated with me, the reason that Australia has been, I guess, not been as impacted by the virus potentially so far, partly could be that we're this wave of this feminine energy that's pulsing out from here, and so we have to do something anchoring wise. So we need a bit of space to do that energetically. And I was working with a friend the other evening, and this opening of a portal came in that was deep in the central Australia, and it wasn't Uluru. It was just sort of in the middle, but it was just a space that no one probably would even think was a sacred site or anything. It just came in, and the image was as though it was a vagina. You know, there's this portal, like a pulsing vagina, and it's sort of. And it feels like we worked with it to open that energy, and it feels like this is the beginning. It's the feminine that's spreading from this country to support the shifting in the if you want to call it the patriarchal system, you know, shifting in the matrix anyway. Yeah. So I would say feminine. Yeah.
Feminine. Okay. Interesting. So your balance. So my theory, this is just my theory, for our current timeline, we obviously are in a duality timeline where we have created in our physical form a female and a male form. And as we go through the different levels of ascension into other timelines, that genderization falls away. So, and it's basically, it's just for this timeline that happens. So I'm curious what happens with the next evolution of humanity, if gender would even be a thing, you know what I mean? Because we will carry full spectrums of both feminine and masculine. So then the creation of our physical form may not be useful anymore, or have that primary function of like creation, where both forms can create life, right?
Well, it's back to the days of Lemuria, yeah, where really everything was in the one vessel, you know. And so I feel like that I feel like I don't know, have an answer for that, but I mean, it feels like there is emerging a reunion of the aspects within all of us that will lead to something very different, I feel. And it was interesting because what came through for me in January before all this stuff, January, February, before this stuff flared up, was this real feeling that womb space in my own physicality, you know, feeling the ovary space in my hips almost, and really birthing that sort of feminine aspect even more energetically. So it feels like it's just happening, you know, with us. I think we're getting what we need to, the spirits, the energies, who we meet, who we interact with, we're getting what we need to upgrade right now. I think all of us, even if we're not aware of that, you know.
Yeah. And what is your perspective on divine unions? So obviously our common mutual friend Todd and Morgan, they're huge ambassadors for the divine unions. I'm curious what your perspective on that is.
As in, my God, I better be careful.
It's okay. You can talk shit about Todd. He's on the couch. He's not even paying attention.
I'm joking. So let me try and think what to say. I guess I would feel to say that the divine union starts within. The divine union starts within, and that once that is, you've got your own inner channels balanced, left, right, through the Kundalini channel, then you have the potential to bring in your divine union partner. But I feel like what you were saying about the balancing of both polarities in the one vessel, I feel like if you're in union with yourself, you may or may not have a partner in that outwardly. It's sort of like, it feels like we need to come back within and have the full union within, you know. And all for divine partnership, you know, it's fabulous. But I feel like the divine partnership is really there so that each partner gets to reunify with themselves, with their mirror, you know, in the partnership. And then when that's anchored, it's just anchored. Yeah, that's my take. Yeah.
So
does that make sense?
Yeah. For you, with the divine unions, divine unions for me has always been like gender free anyways. It doesn't really matter. But
Sure.
Yeah. So for me, it's more of what is the function of these humans coming together and having this experience? Like, is that
okay.
necessary?
Okay.
Do we need to have that? What happens? Because lately,
yeah. So for me, I feel like it depends on your soul. I feel like some souls, part of the contract is that they find their divine partner. It's already been orchestrated, and they have a specific work to do together. You know, like Todd and Morgan. You know what I mean? It feels like they have come together in union to do some specific work for the greater good, for the collective. Yes, they get to have a beautiful relationship, but they also are here to hold each other in a space of balance so that they can do what they are here to do. Some people, I feel, can do that without a partner of either gender, and some people, I feel like, have a divine partnership with colleagues almost that take their path on the spiritual path. So I feel like it depends on the soul, what you've actually come here to learn, or if it and if just really if it's within your soul's contract to do that in that way, you know.
Right.
I don't think it's for everybody.
No, it definitely is not for everybody.
And it's not always easy.
Sorry, all those people out there that wanted that over romanticized relationship. It's not for everyone. Yeah, because I think what happens is there's a certain vibration and frequency out there, and that are looking for that perfect partner and are constantly disappointed. So it's one of those things where it's like it obviously is not for everyone. Like for myself, the irony is with my partner, so my husband, we met when we were quite young. So we met when I was 17. We were 17. We're going on 25 years, like a quarter of a freaking century together. But we don't have that relationship of that romance that everyone is, you know, fantasizes about, that has that huge value put on thanks to Hollywood, right? And it's one of those things where I feel almost bad for everyone that's searching for that, because it almost feels like they're setting themselves up to be disappointed, or they miss out all the awesome people that are not about that, but something different for you. So like for yourself, how would you describe your relationship with a partner? You seem like you're well put together and you have a partner in your life.
Well, thank you very much. So I don't know if I'm well put together, but I have a partner in my life. So I would.
You don't have that hot mess vibration, is what I'm saying. Where you're on Tinder and you keep on swiping.
It depends on the day, you know what I mean? So I do have a long-term partner, yeah, and similar to yourself, we met when early 20s, and we've been together for 20-ish years, and so you know, so it's been a long relationship, and it's grown, you know, and there's been moments of trials and tribulations, like any couple, and there's but then I feel like it's that depth of love and holding that you're not even in a, as you were saying, not in a romanticized way, but just the day-to-day holding and support of somebody that allows me to feel held enough to do this deep inner work and then transmit it to people. I feel very grateful for him holding that space. He's got a job in IT. He's got a very normal kind of life, and that really. And that sometimes I felt, oh my goodness, should I be with a more spiritual person? And it's like, but no, he's the balance. He's the balance. He keeps me grounded, and it keeps me in the world. And I feel like I need to be able to articulate my work in a way that can, that is user-friendly to people that aren't on this path, because it's those people that I feel are going to start awakening through this whole COVID process. So, you know, we need to be accessible to regular folks, you know. That's what I feel. Yeah. So that's my sort of, it's my thing. Yeah.
So for you, I know you said that you don't really have a lot of intel for the near future or how this is going to unfold. Do you have an inkling, or is there anything, your spidey sense is kind of kicking up?
So I feel, so if I tune in, I feel that we've just been invited to really, like you spoke about earlier, to really just be in our hearts and feel as much ease as we can in this time. I feel like our role is as in our community, if you want to call it light worker, is to, or starseed, is to hold our conduits and ground the frequencies in through our channels to the earth to help stabilize the new earth grids. I feel like I don't feel that it's going to be easy for a little while, you know. I don't feel and when I say easy, it's like only because there's no normal right now. Even when we come out of lockdown, there's going to be the financial side of things that's going to be an upheaval. So I feel like that there's no timelines that have been set. We are creating our own future as a collective. We have to stay on our belief about the highest timeline that can manifest for the earth, and that that this is a long-term project, you know, that may not be done in our lives, is what I hear.
Well, that's disappointing. Next guest, please. I don't like this one.
It's going to get better in our lives. It's going to get better in our lives, but maybe just not as quick as we'd hoped, you know. So I feel, so I feel like it's like, it's new. All I hear is it's new, it's new, it's new. Don't expect anything. Don't think you know the answers. What will come is beyond what you feel, beyond what you know as a reality. There's going to be new inventions. There's going to be new medicines. There's going to be new light codes coming through that are going to transform our consciousness. The old is done. The old is done. Just breathe into the new and watch the grids open and give you the gift of paradise.
Wow. Just like that. I like that. Done. I like paradise. Sign me up. So do you have any inkling of Atlantis or Lemuria coming online again?
Well, there's been a bit of talk online lately about America and what it's going through as a purification of Atlantis, and also that it's time that that Armageddon story, that particular, the dissolution of that story in our energetic constructs. I mean, not that there's others, obviously, like the galactic wars, but it feels like that one is weaving out, at this time. So I think people that I've been noticing working one-on-one with people, they've had their, I guess, templates been triggered, whether it's fear, anxiety, or personal growth, through their awakening of their astral chakras and their pineal. It feels like their energy of their Atlantean timeline has been coming forward to clear. So I've been doing quite a bit of work on people around, and it's all about, many people hold that over responsibility from Atlantis, like because of the fall and because we had certain roles that didn't come to form in the way that we would have liked, and then there was the fall and the destruction. It feels like many of us are still holding a lot of that in our energy bodies, and so it's been called up now to be cleared, so that because I feel like this time is like I feel it's almost like a soul contract nulling. If we're moving out of this matrix, if we're moving out of this 3D experience of existence, it feels like all these timelines are just dominoing out, and that's what and I feel like that's why we're just kind of like in this void a little bit, because it hasn't, the new hasn't come in and set. We're in this void of da 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 da. And so Atlantis, I feel, is quite strongly coming out now, and with that, old mission protocols, you know.
So I wonder, because I mean, I have a strong affinity to Atlantis, and I didn't actually pay attention to Lemuria really until last weekend, but so obviously I'm on Team Atlantis, if anyone's wondering. Don't hold it against me, but it feels like, what's happening is a lot of us have gone, like you had said, have that imprint and trauma in our DNA coding, and the experience that we're having right now is triggering that so hard that that's where the fear is. It's not the fear of the actual COVID-19, because if you look statistically with the logical mind, it's just a flu. People die worse of other things, right? But there's something about the collective where people as a collective, we are triggered hard, obviously based on some past deep trauma. So it's almost like we're reliving that fall. And those of us that haven't done that dark work of basically clearing that, whatever that means, it's coming up for us again. And until we get through that bottleneck, we can't transmute that failed timeline.
Yeah. And it feels like there's a little spot in between the solar plexus and the heart, which is like a tiny little chakra. Like I think they call it the olive green chakra. And it sort of feels like it's a bit of it's like the soul. It's like I can't remember what they call it, but it's to do with the soul. Yeah, it's to do with the soul energy, and it feels like a lot of us have had a real trauma at that point because of the fall of Atlantis, and made decisions and beliefs around that, and that we never wanted to do that again, and we'd never be on Earth when this happened again, and so it has brought back that cellular memory right now.
Yes.
Whether you're aware of that timeline in your construct or not. But and if you wish, I could do some light language for that.
That would be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Of course.
Yeah. So this is the soul star. That's it. The soul star.
Soul star. Okay.
It's called, and it sits in there. Yeah. Okay. And so, if people just want to pay attention to that area when I make this light language sound, and really, light language really, if people haven't heard it before, it just sounds like a bit like gobbledygook. It doesn't make sense to most people, and it really is just about energy of a frequency that is clearing, and some people feel it as like they recognize it from our star system or home. Some people just feel like a little bit of releasing in the body. Some people might not feel anything at all. So whatever you feel is your own experience, and perfect for you. And my intention is that we just release some of this old energy here that is about the fall of Atlantis and what we believe is our duty this lifetime. And if there's any old survival fears that are coming up for people, we just want to help those dissolve. Okay.
Beautiful. Wow.
Was that okay?
No, I don't know if I should share this, but I feel like I need to do a number 2. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's a good release.
I know. I'm like, that was an automatic almost release there. Wow. But it's one of those things, like for Atlantis, for me, I have this like unfounded fear of drowning and claustrophobia, which in this lifetime, there's no reason for it. So I feel it was when you were working through that transmission, I can feel that coming in on me. Like basically everything started closing in on me, and I was starting to struggle with my breathing. So it was near the end of it, that all of a sudden it was just like, when you came up and breathed out, that's what was like, okay, now that's that huge lift where I can breathe deeply and I can actually grab some air, because going through that, it was pretty intense. Like I said. So thank you. Wow. Probably not the result you want.
And I feel like
Like,
well, I feel like people get what they need, you know.
Yeah. You don't.
So, but I trust that that's what was supposed to happen. I mean, it feels like there's also it feels like also lots of like also there's a lot of grief in people.
Yes.
You know, a lot of grief around the ending of a way of existence, obviously this life, but also tied back to Atlantis as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's big. It's big for sure.
Yeah,
It's big for sure.
I feel that there's you are spot on when it comes to what's actually happening, because it resonates a lot with me in terms of the tie-in, because a lot of people are like, it seems like Atlantis, Lemuria, they're all tying in just at this conjunction of COVID-19. And it seems like an odd time to tie things in, but for me, it resonates. Your information resonates on this side.
And it sort of feels a bit like the Galactics have not orchestrated this experience, but there's also a multi-dimensional purpose to this. That it feels like, you know, we've been kept away from people in some ways, and we're in a more, even if because I'm still quite busy too. I still keep seeing clients and doing online work. I'm still, and we can still move around a bit. So I'm still doing stuff, but I do notice that I'm also with me a lot more, even in the doing. There's less sort of group work in a room, and so it feels like we've been given a chance. I feel like, and the light codes that are streaming in, they feel like they're really amplifying our bodies, our light bodies. And so when we're over this most intense lockdown phase, I feel like then we can start rebuilding from the inside out, you know, our life, or in a different way. Yeah. But it feels like this year is going to be quite, you know, people say that June and November, there's 2 more Jupiter-Pluto conjuncts in those 2 months, June and November. So those 2 months, there's potential for other little shocks coming, whether they're financial or whether they're other stuff. I'm not sure, but it feels like that this year the astrology is quite you know, go in deep and hard, you know. Is that,
yes.
There's no escape.
I don't even know if it follows astrology. Like, I don't even think astrologies could have predicted. Did the astrologies predict this? It did?
Well, they didn't. No one predicted the virus, but there's been predictions that 2020 was going to be big, and all the Pluto stuff, and sort of they predicted what did they predicted, like the unearthing of the truth. That's what is like deep truth, and like the dissolve, and the Saturn Uranus at the beginning of the year, it's like the dissolving of the old structures that don't serve anymore. They predicted that, but they didn't predict how it would happen.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I meant to say. I 2020 for me always felt like it was a big thing too, but how it actually unfolded, this is all very interesting. I'm like, wow, well, this is fun. Well, thank you so much. I don't know if Todd usually has a show lined up, but I think you're the last one for today. So we could have gone a little bit longer if you wanted to. Was there another transmission that you want to share or anything like that?
So I will do something for the heart space from the Lyrans, the Divine Feminine, just to complete. And I just will say that people can, I'm doing a free transmission on Facebook on my wall on Saturday morning Sydney time. So if people want to connect with me and watch that, they can through my Michael Muir my profile, my regular profile. They'll see that, and it'll sit there on my wall after as a Facebook Live. So if it's too late for some people in the US or too early, they can grab it after. But I just feel like this is a diamond light code frequency, and it's really just a gift from the Lyrans, and they are saying that, you know, that we are so loved. That we are so loved by all dimensions of space, that even in what feels like the darkest hour of our souls on the earth, that we are held so deeply in love, and to remember that so profoundly in our hearts. And they wish to give us this diamond-like matrix for the heart chakra. And it is a remembrance of who we are through the winds of time. So just allow this energy to swirl around your heart like the waves of the ocean. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
It was lovely meeting you as well. And Todd, I don't know if Todd conked out or not. So our tech guy, Todd,
Okay.
I think that would be the end of it.
So we just leave now, yeah? We just leave.
Yes, I think we can.
Okay.
Yeah. Not sure.
That's all good. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, take care.